And find a seat. Let's get this party started. Well, welcome everybody. Can you believe where you're at? All right, everybody just take a deep breath and just enjoy the moment. That was actually for me, so I just wanted everybody else to participate. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Mark Soto. I'm on the board of IGDA Orange County. And before we get started, just some kind of house rules. Let's not necessarily have any wandering. The restrooms, in case anybody needs to go, and we'll watch you as you walk down the hallway. They're down this hallway through the door and right to the left. For those of you, you probably already discovered, those of you that smoke, there's a smoking area right outside in the parking lot area. What else? Yeah, just don't wander or you'll get shot. First off, I want to just say thank you. You know, this is a major event to put on, obviously here at Blizzard Entertainment. Getting all this rallied together, this was a labor of love, and I'm just excited. I'm very humbled to be here. So, a couple of people I want to thank by name is Michael from Security, Henry from Facilities. Yes, a place like this has facilities. Megan from HQ, Kevin from Legal, Stuart from PR, Darlene from Reception, Philip and the IT team. Thank you guys. Johnny in the video and post-production team. So we're actually Twitch streaming this live right now, so this is great. So for all those people that are watching and you couldn't make it, sorry, but at least we get to host this for you on Twitch. Let's see, Carolyn and the sound team, Debbie and the Blizzard cafeteria. Let's thank everybody for the food, by the way. I remember Gavin over there was just going a little loopy for the chips. They were very good chips, yes. He's like, these chips are great, so put them in your pockets as you walk out. I'd also like to thank Kim Sullivan. She's an associate producer here, and so she was really, she helped orchestrate this thing together. So, yes, Dan just reiterated, she did a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on in an event like this, as you can only imagine. I can't even begin to appreciate. I want to thank our speaker, Frank Pearce, for opening his house. And thank you, Frank. And of course, I want to thank all those on the IGDAOC board to rally this together and to kind of keep the community going and the culture going. We want to just continue to push on this momentum and open up more venues and get more speakers like Frank and other influencers in the industry to all the guys and the girls and the developers and whatnot out there, because it's just really important that we remember, you know, who started this industry, where it's going, because it just helps us all. So let's see. I want to remind everybody that IGDA, we have our own Facebook page and Twitch TV and channel and YouTube, and thank you, Jason, for putting that all together, Jason Fader. What, no applause? Come on, give Jason applause. All right, so just real quick, just to sum up, IGDA, just kind of what we are. I know there's been a lot of questions in the past of what is IGDA. We hear about it all the time. Really, let me go back to my notes. I had this written down. IGDA's mission is to build a community of game developers which leverages the expertise of our members for the betterment of the industry and the development of the art form. So that is really our mission. That's our drive. That's our heart's cry. To get everybody here involved at just the betterment of the industry and for ourselves as well. So without further ado, I will go ahead and introduce Frank Pearce, who is the co-founder and chief development officer of Blizzard Entertainment. Frank.
You guys ready to start videotaping? Oh, you have been recording. Okay, so I don't have to pat my head and give you a signal. So my friend Jordan was 13 years old when he started playing World of Warcraft in 2005. And he played World of Warcraft religiously and enthusiastically with his friends from school. He played World of Warcraft with his mother. Can you imagine that? A teenager partaking in a shared activity with a parent. very, very exciting. So, Jordan attended BlizzCon in 2007 in much the same way that any teenager would attend an event like that. And he was there amongst the crowd when they were pushing up against the door to get through the doors, to race to get in line to play or work in progress, and he was excited about an opportunity to play Wrath of the Lich King because that was the expansion that we had just announced, and that's what he wanted to see. And Jordan was a good kid. He was shy, but you know, in the heat of battle at BlizzCon, that was all put aside. He was a soldier of the Horde. And then in 2008, Jordan was diagnosed with, I have notes, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I get all this right, disseminated medulloblastoma, which is an aggressive form of brain cancer. And we'll talk about Jordan more later. But first, about me. My name's Frank Pearce. I'm co-founder and chief development officer at Blizzard Entertainment. Welcome to Blizzard. I'm very glad that you guys could be here tonight. This place is very special to us. This is where we do what we do. This is our home away from home, and I'm glad that you guys could join us. I received my bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering from UCLA. I was very fortunate while I was at UCLA. I met a gentleman named Alan Adham. And Alan knew when he was there that when he graduated, he wanted to make computer games. And Alan and I shared a passion for computer games, and I don't think Alan was as wise back then as we are today, because I was probably confusing a passion for playing games with a passion for making games. So I didn't know anything about making games, and I actually graduated shortly before Alan, and in my prior life before Blizzard, I worked in the aerospace industry in Seal Beach here in Southern California for all of 7 months, right before they started laying everyone off. And in December of the year I graduated, Alan also graduated, and I happened to pick up the phone and give him a call. At that time, there was no Facebook, there was no email, there were no cell phones. I actually had to call him on a phone that was connected to the wall. And I was actually an introvert, so this was a very uncharacteristic thing for me to do. And I called Alan, and he said, "Frank, I'm so glad you called. I have something that I want to talk to you about. When can we get together for a beer?" And I met Alan for a beer, and that's when he invited me to join him to make video games. We were 22 years old, and his vision was that we would make great games and take over the world. So I've been at Blizzard for almost 23 years. It'll be 23 years next week. You know, 23 years ago, I didn't know anything about making video games, and I still feel like I'm a little short on that knowledge today. My origin is as a software engineer. I spent most of my time sitting behind a desk. I am not a professional public speaker. I will do my best not to disappoint you guys tonight. I have notes because I have a lot of points that I want to make for you guys. I don't want to forget anything, so excuse me if I have to refer to these. And let's get started. So a couple thoughts that I have on culture. So I was thinking about this as I was preparing to see you guys this evening, and I feel like there's sort of two phases to Blizzard culture, and this is titled The Evolution of Blizzard Culture, and I was thinking about how the Blizzard culture evolved, and I really feel like there were two phases. There was everything before World of Warcraft, and then there was everything after World of Warcraft. So that's what you'll hear about. So, you know, from my perspective, I really feel like culture, it defines the personality of an organization, and that personality trickles down straight from the top. I think that what you're going to see in the culture of any organization is going to be a reflection of the leaders of that organization and how they behave. So it doesn't matter what values are defined and where they're printed or what walls they're hung on. What matters is how the leaders of that organization behave. But all that said, I am far from an expert on culture. I will do my best to relay to you my experiences over the last 23 years. But I would not say that anything I say is gospel. I'm just telling you the story. So I'm often asked, what is the secret to Blizzard's success? And there is no one thing that anyone can point to that defines Blizzard's success and how we've gotten here. I would liken it to a chef's secret recipe. There are lots of ingredients that go into it, and even if you know all the ingredients, you still have to know how to put them together and what quantities to put in there to achieve that successful recipe. And what I would say to you is that I don't know that anyone at Blizzard necessarily knows what all the ingredients are, and I don't know if we know necessarily what the quantities of those ingredients are as well. So I can only tell you what I've observed. So I've got a clicker, I've got notes, and I've got a microphone, so excuse me. Okay. All right. So Blizzard was founded in 1991, 3 UCLA graduates. I mentioned Alan's goal was to make great games and take over the world. You know, I'm not going to read this slide for you. I don't know that these details are necessarily important. I think what's important is that we were a much smaller organization then. There were literally 3 of us in a 600 square foot office. I wish I could tell you that we started in a garage. That would be much more romantic, but Alan actually had the foresight to rent an office. And that was it. And I answered the phones, and Alan did the business deals, and Mike was our IT department, and we were all working on making games. And our first contracts were with Interplay. We were doing ports for Interplay. We took their DOS titles and we converted them to the Amiga. They gave us the opportunity to do original development on the Super Nintendo. We were acquired by an educational software company called Davidson Associates in 1994. And that's a point at which things really started to change, because then we had the opportunity to create original titles published under our label. Since then, we've gone through what I would describe as countless corporate changes at the corporate umbrella level. I can't tell you how many. Our boss, our CEO is Mike Morheim, and I cannot tell you how many different bosses Mike has had since 1994, because it's too many to count. But Blizzard has always persisted through those corporate changes. Everyone knows that the most recent corporate change was a merger with Activision, and now the corporate umbrella is Activision Blizzard. The one thing I would say, I'm getting ahead of myself, but the one thing that I would say about that is that a lot of the corporate umbrellas that we were interacting with did not have experience with our industry. And while Activision does have their own philosophies and values and culture, and they have a very strong culture around their philosophies, the one thing that's great about having those folks as a partner is that they understand our industry and they recognize the value of what we've done here so far. So one of the things I would say about the beginning is that, in addition to all these other things that I was talking about, we did not have documented values or culture of any kind. If someone had said, "What is your corporate culture?" we would have looked at them very funny. But it did exist. The one thing I would say about culture is, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, any organization that you're a part of has a culture. And the culture that we had was based on what we represented in the way that we behaved day in and day out, and especially the way that Alan behaved. Alan worked very hard, and everything that Alan did represented the culture. And so it was easy for us to represent our culture to the people that we were bringing on, because they could witness it by example. And that's great when you have 10 people, that's great when you have 30 people, but as things start to grow, that fails. Come on. So Blizzard today, the important thing here is that we have over 800 developers. Most of those people are housed on this campus. I mentioned this is our home away from home. I think a lot of people probably spend as many waking hours here on this facility as they do outside of this facility. So, you know, the environment that we have here is important to what we do. I wish I could give you all a tour. This place is amazing. I think so anyway. You guys will be able to, you can see the statue out in the courtyard, our 14-foot bronze orc. It's every man's orc, it's not Thrall. We have volleyball court, we have basketball courts. We have a gym back at the back of this building here with locker room and showers. I love this place. Like, I don't have any issue getting up in the morning and coming to work here because I know I'm going to get to work with great people, and I know we've got a great facility to take advantage of. So, hang on. So 3,900 people is a lot of people. So I'm going to talk about this. This is a slide that our CEO put in front of the company just this month. I wish I could take credit for this. I think this is an awesome slide, but Mike crafted this for our battle plan. Each year at the beginning of the year, we present our plan for the year to the entire employee base, part of the transparency of the strategic planning process. And Mike put this slide up. And I told him I was going to put it in this deck, and he said, I didn't think that slide worked that well. I said, Mike, that slide was fucking awesome. And when I saw it, what it represented for me was the idea that everything we do, all the decisions that we make every day, need to be about investing in the brand equity of Blizzard, right? We don't want to chase the short-term benefit. We want the long-term gain, right? We want to be here. We've been here 23 years. We want to be here in 23 years from now. We want Blizzard to persist long after we're all gone. The Walt Disney Company's been around for 90 years. How did they achieve that success, and what do we have to do that as well? And it's about that investment in brand equity. And when people are chasing quarterly numbers, their decision-making is compromised. And they potentially are sacrificing the quality of the experience that they're delivering to their customer, and that's a withdrawal of brand equity. And everything so when I see this slide, I think it's about investment in our brand and making the right decisions for the future of our brand. Now, when I talked to Megan, Mike's assistant, Megan said, when I talked to Mike about that, he said it was about the cycle of talent acquisition, right? We have great people here, and we have wonderful people here that are really passionate about what they do, and they help us make great games, which is also awesome. And the great games create a passionate and wonderful community of gamers, and that community of gamers helps build our brand further. And when we have an awesome brand, we can attract really great people to make more awesome games. And I thought, that's really awesome too. And so I think that this meant, when Mike put this slide up on the screen at the battle plan, I think this meant something to everyone, and I think it was really impactful. And I don't think Mike necessarily recognized the impact that this slide had. So we launched World of Warcraft in 2004. And our global headcount at the time was about 500 people. And 500 people sounded like a lot in 2004. And we were experiencing extreme growing pains. And then World of Warcraft was a breakaway success, and our company exploded. And by the time we moved to this campus in 2007, I think our global headcount must have been in the neighborhood of about 3,000 people. And we had offices all over the world, Seoul, Korea, Shanghai, outside of Paris. It was crazy. And we brought in a facilitator to help us memorialize the values and philosophies that we felt were important to us, that had helped us get us to this point. And it was a great exercise, and we had the top 30 leaders of the organization in a room, and we talked about all this. And so the results are actually cast in bronze under the orc outside. The mission statement is in bronze. The values are on the compass points in bronze. And so when I think about culture and I think about this mission statement and these values, I think it's important to note that we can memorialize these aspects of our culture, but the Blizzard culture is constantly evolving. Every day the Blizzard culture changes. We have new hires that show up here every week. We do a new hire orientation for them in the theater, in the building across the courtyard, and all of those people bring to the table their values, their beliefs, their philosophies, the things that they're passionate about. So we cannot set in stone the culture that we have here at Blizzard, because it's constantly evolving. All we can do is memorialize the key pieces of that puzzle, the foundation of that culture that we believe led to our success to that point, that we believe will lead to our success in the future. So our mission statement is dedicated to creating the most epic entertainment experiences ever. Now, when we chose the name Blizzard Entertainment for our company, this was when we were acquired by Davidson and Associates, it was a very conscious decision to use the term entertainment. We didn't call it Blizzard Games, we didn't call it Blizzard Studios, we consciously chose Blizzard Entertainment. And the reason we did that is because we believed that someday we would be creating more than just games with the intellectual property and worlds that we were creating. We would deliver more to the fans of our properties than just interactive entertainment. And so it was a similar discussion when we talked about our mission statement. Would it be entertainment? Would it be games? What was it? And we landed on epic entertainment experiences. And I'm sure everyone's heard news that we're working on a movie. That's been a long time in the making. They actually started filming in Canada this week. So hopefully that project will actually come to fruition, and we'll all get to see Warcraft on the big screen. Green orcs in all their glory on a big screen. And that's what we're trying to do, right? Epic entertainment experiences. It's not just about the games. So I talked about, Carl, can you hold that for me, please? Thank you so much. I talked about the exercise by which we generate the values, and I mentioned the new hire orientation that we do for new hires that come in every week. And we go through an onboarding process where we go through these values with them. And you can see these values on our website. It's no secret, although you may have to dig through the website to find them. There's carefully crafted blurbs for each of these values, and they're on these slides. You can see them on the website. I'm not going to read these to you. I don't think that's what's important. If I'm standing here talking to you guys, when I think about culture and I think about these values, I want to represent to you guys what these things mean to me. And so when I talk about gameplay first, what are you reading ahead, Carl? This is about results for me, right? Like, making games is an art form. We could spend our time working on a game in perpetuity, noodling on every aspect of the game, trying to get it right. But ultimately, we have to call it done, and we have to put it in the hands of our players so that they can experience the fruits of our labors. And so we have a high level of attention to detail in all aspects of our gameplay, and there is that battle between, is it good enough and could we work on it more, and we want to get this into the hands of our players. So everything, technology, art, audio, all of these things need to support that gameplay experience. And it's a very iterative process, right? We have to be willing to try something and kill our babies and try it again. And so that's what this means to me. So commit to quality. I think that speaks for itself, right? It's about the quality of the experience. I hope that when we put a game out and it has that blue Blizzard logo on it, everyone's expectation is that that product is going to be at a standard of quality that is higher than the average. I think that we hold ourselves to a very high standard of quality, and I think that our fans hold us to a very high standard of quality. And so this is important. And we actually have our own internal quality assurance department. It is a massive department. If we outsource any quality assurance, it's only to bolster what we do internally. I took a seminar and the instructor said, own your business. And if we say gameplay first and commit to quality, then owning our business means we don't outsource game development. We don't outsource the process by which we make sure that the games meet our standards of quality. So, you know, I mentioned the process by which we've come to where we are through lots of corporate changes. When we were part of Davidson and Associates, we were a very small piece of the revenue puzzle. And so because of that, if we called up Bob Davidson and we said, we need some more time to work on this product, Bob would say, no problem. Because we were a rounding error. And so it didn't matter. And so that gave us the opportunity to create great games, and we've had this successful track record because we've had the luxury of being able to take that extra time. Post World of Warcraft, we're no longer a rounding error. So we still have to hit that standard of quality, and we still want to take that extra time. But it is a bigger struggle for us today. Mike and Alan and others and me have said, you know, at the end of the day, the players are not going to remember if the game is late. They're only going to remember if the game was great. And you know, you can point to StarCraft. That's Mike's favorite example. I think it's mine too. We missed the holiday season in 1997 when we were supposed to be on the shelves with StarCraft. We missed it by 4 months. No one cares. It doesn't matter. 14 years later, it's over 15 years later, no one remembers that we missed the quarter for StarCraft. Everyone remembers that StarCraft was awesome. So on these two values, I want to add that making games is challenging work. It's hard. It is not easy. And there's no substitute for hard work, right? I think the opportunity to make games is fun. But we come in here and we work our asses off every day to achieve the results that we see with the quality of our products and the level of immersiveness that we achieve with the experience we deliver to our players. So even though we do enjoy the luxury of extra time, we don't take advantage of that luxury of extra time by slacking off because it's hard work. So play nice, play fair, for me, is about integrity and respect, how we treat each other, how we interact with each other. And this is not just about how we interact with each other inside these walls, right? This is about how we interact with our business partners. This is about how we interact with our players. This is about how our players interact with each other. I'm sure many of you have seen news in the past where we've closed down Battle.net accounts that were suspected of cheating. That's because we hold our players to this standard too, right? These are our worlds. These are experiences that are something that are for all of us and our players, and we don't want some jackass screwing it up, so we kick him out. Embrace your inner geek. So for me, this is about passion. This is about people having passion for what they do, but also having passion for things they do for themselves. So what I tell people is that this is not only about having passion today, but honoring the history of our passion. I don't know, I might be dating myself. When I was young, I played Dungeons and Dragons. I'm proud of it, right? Everyone here at Blizzard, everyone in our industry should be proud of where we came from and the things that we did when we were young that brought us where we are today. I wouldn't have it any other way. You guys shouldn't either. The passions of our history fuel what we do today and help us make great games. The passions that we have today fuel us and help us make great games. I was thinking about this one when I was preparing for this presentation. And I was thinking back to, it was probably 1992, 1993. I don't know how many of you ever heard of or played Magic the Gathering. People still play it today. We used to play that game all the time. We would have game nights in the common area of our office on the floor The gaming of Magic the Gathering would take place until 2 in the morning on a weeknight. I can't do that anymore. But um, one of the guys that was a developer back then that was really passionate about Magic the Gathering and helped organize these game nights where we played Magic the Gathering until 2 in the morning. Today he's the tech director on Hearthstone, right? Like, who would have thought in 1992 when he was organizing game nights till 2 a.m. to play a card game that today he would be launching the open beta for an electronic card game? It fuels us. Every voice matters. This is not about speaking, right? Every voice matters is about listening and communication. Doesn't mean everyone gets a vote, but it is about hearing what people have to say and taking the time to understand what they have to say. We have a tremendous number of mechanisms by which we honor this value. Some of it's internally. Sorry, I said it. Some of it's internally. We have an employee opinion survey by which we gather feedback from our employees because we constantly want to improve the organization for everyone here so that we can continue to make awesome games. But this is also about the voices of our community. My favorite vehicle for this value amongst our community is BlizzCon. We get to go to BlizzCon and we get to interact face to face with 20,000 of our most passionate fans, and we get to hear about what they think about our work in progress. It's awesome. I know we have forums, we have all sorts of ways we interact with the community. That's why we host betas and alphas and all that stuff, so that we can hear what the players are saying. And when it comes to internally, in addition to the employee opinion survey, we actually have a mechanism by which any employee can send an email to Mike, either anonymously or with his or her name on it, where they can express any thoughts they want to Mike. Questions, comments, concerns. They can email them straight to Mike. We have another mechanism on our intranet called Ask the Execs, where people can submit questions to the executive team, and we answer those questions and we socialize those on the intranet. So this is really important. Think globally. I'm going to tell you a story. Back in, I want to say, probably 2002, 2003, the art director on Warcraft 3 worked on a piece of concept art, and he drew a bipedal panda creature. Today it's called a Pandaren. And his original sketch for this Pandaren was garbed in Japanese samurai armor. Now, we didn't know this at the time. We didn't understand this at the time because we didn't have that strong understanding of the diversity of our player base. And at the time, we didn't even operate our games notably in China. Today, China is a huge market for us. It turns out that the panda is China's symbol of peace, and China and Japan didn't used to get along so well. And our Chinese community, that we barely knew existed, was unenthusiastic about Sam's concept art. And we heard it. Every voice matters. And he changed it, and we revised it so that it was more appropriate for their symbol of peace. And it was a really valuable lesson for us. It was a lesson of diversity and valuing that diversity amongst our community. And when I talk about diversity and the power of that diversity and the value of that diversity, it's also important as it relates to our employee base. We have an office outside of Paris, France. I don't know what the number is today, but at one point we had employees in our Paris office that represented 28 different nations. And that's incredibly powerful for a company to have that diversity at their disposal, to understand everything that we're doing and the impact we're having around the world. Oops, shit. That went really far forward. Okay. lead responsibly. So when I present this to new hires, I struggle to sort of represent this one, right? It's about responsibility. Okay, what does that mean? And so when I was thinking about this presentation for you guys, I thought it would be important to talk about the success factors that we think about when we're working on our products and what defines success for Blizzard. So I think we have no option but to have a responsibility to our shareholders. So profitability is a key measure of success. But we want Blizzard to be around for years to come. So I think that's a reasonable thing to say. But that's not the most important success factor. We work our asses off on these games. I've mentioned that before. Our developers pour blood, sweat, and tears into the games that they're making here, right? The best way to be successful for all those efforts is to reach a lot of people, to get those works into the hands of millions and millions of people. And if we reach lots of people and they're enthusiastic and happy about what we've done, that's really important to our success. And also awesome games, right? Like, these people aren't going to be happy if we're not releasing great games. Great games, awesome games, and happy community, growing community. And if we have all that, hopefully we also have happy employees here making the games, right? So happy employees, happy players, great games. That's what's important to us in terms of success. We do a lot of other things that I think are important in terms of leading responsibly. We have parental controls for World of Warcraft. I think that's a good example. It's not a sexy example, but it's a good one. We try to have a lot of transparency with our employees in terms of what we're doing. I mentioned the battle plan at the beginning of this presentation. Mike gets up in front of everyone in Irvine, it's 1,900 people, and he presents what it is we're trying to achieve over the course of the next year. It gets videotaped, and our international offices see it as well. It's important to have that transparency, and it's important to create trust through that transparency and be honest with people. Yeah. When I do this for new hires, I tell them I don't need a microphone because it's a small theater, and I just shout out, and I just say, hey, if you have questions, comments, concerns, just shout out. And we have Twitch, and we have microphones, and it's all very complicated. So the absence of questions amongst you guys while I go through this is throwing me off just a little bit. Learn and grow. So we have what we call Blizzard Academy. We have another group in HR called Learning and Organizational Development, and that is one of the first things I think of when I think of learn and grow, and it's about investing in ourselves so that we're more prepared for the future, right? This is about self-development and development of the organization, and we have a lot of ways that we do this. I would include what we're doing here tonight as part of this value. I don't know that if this wasn't a Blizzard value, I think this would have been a harder sell. We host guest speakers in our theater, what we call /learns, where we bring people of interest in to speak to our developers. One of my favorites was a NASA space shuttle commander. He came in and he talked. They took a copy of StarCraft on disk into space with them on a space shuttle. So awesome. I don't know why. Why would you need a StarCraft disk in space? They probably wanted to use it to kill time. That's what I would have done. So I think when I talk about learn and grow, I think one of the things that's really important as it relates to the way that Blizzard has evolved over the course of time is that we started out not knowing very much about this industry at all, and everything that we've done year after year is about building on the knowledge that we learned the year prior, right? So when we started with ports. I got to look at code that had been written for a game. I had never written game code before. Then we got to do Super Nintendo titles. We just have this pyramid of experience that we've built upon that sort of represents the growth of our knowledge base. And Mike calls it crawl, walk, run. We have to learn to crawl before we can learn to walk, before we can learn to run. And I think that's really important, because if we try to bite off more than we can chew, then we risk our success. So speaking of success, we actually love to celebrate success here at Blizzard. One of the things that I think is really special is the service awards. We have service awards for everyone at Blizzard. At 2 years, we give you a Stein. At 5 years, we give you a sword. 10 years, we give you a shield. 15 years, we give you a ring. And at 20 years, we give you a crown. Like I said, I wish I could give you guys a tour, because if we walked through the offices, you would see the swords and shields hanging on the walls. You could see the crown, the sample crown in the lobby here. We have people that have been here a tremendously long time. 23 years is about how long we've been around, and we've given out 11 helms and over 50 15-year rings. That is a tremendous amount of experience in the industry just at Blizzard. We really celebrate that. We have a ceremony out here in the courtyard where we have the folks come across the stage and be recognized for their service. It's really powerful. When we ship a product, we have a champagne toast. And I don't know what you imagine when I say champagne toast, but I promise you it's not what we have happen out here in the courtyard. You've never seen anything until you've seen champagne corks shoot 50 feet into the air and then champagne spray 50 feet or 20 feet into the air after it, and people running around having a great time. And we raise a flag for the product on the flagpoles. There's flagpoles out here. You can see the product. It goes back to that gameplay first value, right, where I talked about results. And that's really important, getting the product into the hands of our players, and we celebrate that and emphasize it. I think that it's important to talk about, when I talk about leading responsibly, I think it's important to talk about Blizzard giving back to the community. We have a very passionate community that has done amazing things for the world. We have raised millions of dollars for people in need around the world, and this is about our opportunity to impact the lives of people beyond our virtual worlds. You know, over $5 million for Make-A-Wish. My favorite event each year at BlizzCon, we host a charity event for Children's Hospital of Orange County. People pay $500 a head to come to this cocktail party the night before BlizzCon for an opportunity to interact with some of the developers from the teams. And I go to this and I get to talk to passionate fans. And so often when I'm talking to these people, I expect to hear them talking about how excited they are to meet developers, how excited they are to be at BlizzCon, and what they talk about is how excited they are to help Children's Hospital. And I think that's really powerful. So I have the microphone, and we're talking about culture, and there are a couple things that I just want to say that are random, that are, I think, words to live by. The first is bring the guacamole. So what I will say is that it's a story about a guy who's going to a potluck, and his hope is that there will be chips and guacamole at the potluck. He's very much looking forward to having chips and guacamole at the potluck. And he shows up at the potluck empty-handed, and there's no chips and guacamole. And he's disappointed. Well, if you want guacamole and chips at the potluck, bring the guacamole. And what that means is that in your experiences, through your journey of life, bring to the table, bring to the experiences what you want to take away from those experiences. If there's something that you are expecting from an experience, you should bring that to the experience. You'll take it away from that experience, and the people you're sharing that experience with will also take it away. So that's the first piece of random thoughts I want to share. And then the next piece of random advice is, we've all heard the saying, luck favors the prepared. And I think that's very true. And Alan always believed in hard work. And if we look at the history of Blizzard, there are so many moments in time that we could point to where we could say, wow, Blizzard got really lucky there. I would point to World of Warcraft, right? When we launched World of Warcraft, it was built on 10 years of the Warcraft franchise. And broadband internet was taking off, and internet gaming was taking off. And we were in the right place at the right time, and we were lucky. But that's not all there is to it, right? Being prepared so that you can be favored by luck requires a tremendous amount of hard work. Do not forget that, right? There is no substitute for hard work. So, Jordan, I mentioned my friend Jordan at the beginning of this talk, and that he was diagnosed in 2008 with an aggressive form of brain cancer. The treatment for this condition is extremely challenging. He went through radiation therapy. He went through chemotherapy. He had what are called shunt revision surgeries. These are brain surgeries to minimize the risk of intracranial hematoma. And despite those surgeries, he still suffered from an intracranial hematoma. And when he attended BlizzCon in 2009, he was confined to a wheelchair. So remember, I told you in 2007, he attended BlizzCon as you would expect any teenager to. And by 2009, all the luxuries that a typical teenager would take for granted, he couldn't do. He rarely left his house. He couldn't go to school. He could barely speak. And I'm not doing this to depress you. I promise I'll make a point. Even after all this struggle, Jordan still played World of Warcraft. He played World of Warcraft with his friends from before his diagnosis. He still played World of Warcraft with his mother. He was still a mighty hero in Warcraft that could take part in experiences with his friends that our world could not offer. It gave him purpose. It gave him passion. It kept him connected with his friends. It kept him connected with his family. It brought him happier experiences during the toughest times of his life. Jordan passed away in 2010, July 2010. And at his request, he was laid to rest in his Horde t-shirt. Jordan's story is one of many stories that I could relate to you about how we connect people. We make computer games because we can bring people together and impact their lives in unique and special ways that we cannot imagine. That's the power we have with our interactive entertainment. Thank you.
Frank, would you have about another 20 minutes or so to answer questions?
Yes, we have time for Q&A. Okay. I have a slide for that.
Okay, great. Can we give another round of applause to Frank? Okay. The format will be just raising hands. I will stand over there with the mic. I'm not going to try and have you guys get out of your chairs, but if you can enunciate just so Frank can hear and everybody else in the back can hear, so just really loud, and I'll go ahead and start calling. Go ahead, Michael.
If I remember correctly, the astronaut that took the game into space, it was like you talked to his son through Battle.net, and it was like the first, they were using the satellites and relaying it through that, and it was a way for them to talk in like closer to real time.
Yeah, his name was Dan Barry, yeah, and he stayed in contact with his son through StarCraft.
That was really awesome.
The question was about the astronaut that took StarCraft into space.
Sorry. That's a great idea, Frank. If you could repeat the question, just so we get on record. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, that's true. That's true. If I can. All right. What's that? Oh, well, that's a great idea. Thank you, Jason. For those that want a question, here you go. Q, right here. So that's fantastic. What? Oh yeah, Jason, can you do online? Okay, just shout out. Okay. Okay, we'll do. Go ahead.
Hi. My question is, what kind of advice do you have for like a small startup when you're just starting up and making games? Like, what kind of advice can you give?
So I actually had some notes on this that I didn't get to, and so the one thing that I would say is that it's important to control the scope of the product that you're trying to create. If you want to create a quality product, right, because you want a great experience for your players, it's important to control the scope. It's better to have a well-controlled scope where you're doing fewer features at a higher level of quality than to try to do too many features at a mediocre level of quality.
Thank you very much.
Hey, hi, my name is Adrian. My question for you is, over the years that Blizzard has been becoming a renowned success, how nervous were you at the times when you were taking, big risks? So like moments during WoW's campaign where accidents were discovered, DDoSing events occurred, and all these different implications that sort of deviated the fan base over the types of years. How do you handle that pressure or that risk, and how does it help you continue Blizzard's success over the course of the years?
I don't know if I would use the term nervous to describe the situation for us. Stress, anxiety, for sure. In a lot of cases, I think we were so busy dealing with it, and we were so passionate about what we were doing, and we were so excited about what we were delivering to the players that I don't know that we had time to necessarily worry about it, right? We saw what was in front of us. We had a job to do, and we did it. And it happens here all the time. It happens here every day. There's employees here in the room, and we don't think about being nervous, right? Like, nervous is public speaking. This is, for a lot of people, public speaking is much harder than just hunkering down, putting your nose to the grindstone, and doing what you need to do to get it right.
Okay. And how does so whenever you do run into these problems, how does it go back to the idea of lead responsibility?
Lead responsibly, yeah. When we run into problems, well, it's about doing what's right by our players. So with World of Warcraft, when we had challenges, if the service was down and people couldn't access the servers to play the game, then we would issue time credits to the active subscribers to make sure that they understood that we knew they were there, that they were important, and that we understood that we were having challenges, right? So I think it's about how you interact with the players, and being candid and acknowledging the mistakes and working to address them. I mean, Diablo 3, right? Everyone's aware of Error 37. We worked our asses off to address that, and hopefully we won't see that same problem when we launch the expansion this year.
All right, thank you very much, Frank.
Yeah.
Jason, do you want to take a Twitch question?
Hello, all you Twitch viewers. One Twitch viewer.
Hi, my name is Kurt Dennis, and I'd like to ask, is Blizzard interested in starting any new IPs in the near future?
Yeah. So, new IP. So we've had the Warcraft franchise for almost 20 years now. We've had the StarCraft franchise for over 15 years. We've had the Diablo franchise for 17, 18 years. And we have a lot of really, really talented developers, artists, designers, writers. And hell yeah, they want to work on new IP. And it's a difficult balance for us to strike, because we also have millions and millions of very, very passionate players that love those existing intellectual properties. And so it's important for us to serve our existing community first and foremost before we branch out and explore the possibility of new intellectual property.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emilio Estrada. With increasing growth of the developing community, has Blizzard considered hosting a game jam or any event like that?
Do you mean a game jam for external third parties or a game jam internally? I went to a DICE talk where they talked about they hosted a game jam internally where they just worked on features for the game that they had just shipped, which looked really awesome. I would love to be able to do that. We have so much work to do, though.
Okay, yeah, I mostly refer to game jam with like developers outside parties.
I think that's a really interesting idea. It's not something that we've explicitly talked about too frequently, but I think, you know, one of our biggest challenges, and you wouldn't think this to be the case for Blizzard because we have so much brand equity and we have so many passionate players, but talent acquisition is a huge challenge for us, and I could see something like that being a prong of our talent acquisition strategy for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else that wants to ask a question, come up.
Joe Martinazzi here. Now, my question comes in relation to up-and-coming game developers, particularly dealing with negative or positive player feedback, because this is probably something you guys deal with on a regular basis on the forums, is constantly having to deal with the good and the unfortunate slew of bad that can turn into a
The interesting thing about feedback on the forums and good feedback and bad feedback is that the players that are happy, they're not in the forums. They're playing the game. Right, so we don't hear from them in the forums. We know that they're happy because they're playing the game, and the people that have things to say are on the forums.
And that's what a lot of these, up and coming developers are really curious about. Is like, how is the best approach to really, reach out to those good players to get the positive feedback, rather than just having to sift through the constant stream of negative feedback.
Well, the one word that I would say as it relates to Blizzard for that is BlizzCon, right? That's where we have 20,000 passionate players that have a very positive perspective on everything we're doing. The other opportunity for us is through our beta programs, right, where we beta test our games. The people that want to sign up for beta tests, they want to give us feedback. They want to be constructive about the way they're doing it because they want to contribute to the quality of the products that we're creating. So I think that's probably for, independent developers that are trying to do that. I think that's probably a really good option.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Oh, sure.
All right. That's great. Okay, so some questions from Twitch. Let's see. Where's the first one? This one comes from, I'm going to butcher these names, Alexotronic. These are internet names, unless that's his birth name. Electrotronic asks, does Blizzard have any interest in VR?
So that's an interesting question. I think that especially our technologists certainly have interest in the technology. One of the success factors that I mentioned in the presentation is about reaching lots of players. And right now, that technology is not something that's going to reach lots of players for us. And when we can reach lots of players and deliver a really amazing experience through VR, then I think it's going to bubble to the surface. But right now, if you look at the minimum system specifications for our products, they're low. And that's because we want to get our games into the hands of lots of people.
Okay. Another question from... Awesome Alar. What's the average day for Blizzard's Chief Development Officer?
No, it's fine. I'm asked this question often, and so I try to minimize the amount of email that I get, and it's a tremendous struggle to do that. And that's okay, because the email is a way for me to get visibility into the things that are going on with the development teams. I start my day almost every day with a one-on-one meeting for the production director for World of Warcraft. I've done that for years now. World of Warcraft is a really important piece of our business, and so I want to be available to that development team and the leadership of that team to support them in whatever way they need. And so what I would say is that my job is to be of service to the members of the development teams and the leaders of the development teams to help them with whatever challenges they have. And I don't like to be in a situation where I'm telling people what to do. The leadership of our development teams and the members of our development teams are highly experienced experts. They don't need me to tell them what to do, right? It's my job to support the other executive leadership in setting the strategic direction for our organization, and it's my job to make sure that the leadership of the development teams are not making decisions that are wrong, that are potentially devastating mistakes. And if they're not going to make a devastating mistake, then that's okay. They can make mistakes. I learned a long time ago, especially when you're talking about an organization with over 3,900 people, thousands and thousands of decisions are being made for Blizzard every day. We are not going to get all of them right, and the leadership of the company cannot monitor every decision. We have to trust people to do their job. We have to trust them to make the decisions in their area of expertise. And so what I would say is my day-to-day job is to trust people to do what they know how to do.
Okay. We have two more Twitch questions. This one is from Geigart. Once again, sorry for butchering your names. Geigart asks, is Blizzard making any specific efforts to get more creator voices of women and people of color to add breadth to their IPs?
Say it again.
Is Blizzard making any specific efforts to get more creative voices of women and people of color to add breadth to their IPs?
So, when we talk about think globally, and I talked about diversity and the value and importance of diversity, and I would say, yeah, right. I would point to Mists of Pandaria as an example of somewhere where we said we want to leverage diversity. And so it's very Asian inspired and Asian themed. And yeah, so it's not a conscious decision to do that, but we do want to leverage our diversity for sure.
Okay, and last question from Art Raider. What is your advice for people breaking into the industry and as a model/artist trying to shine or get attention with no dev experience?
So I think that members of our development community, members of our industry probably get this question a lot. I know I get this question a lot, and I would guess that all the industry folks in here get this question a lot. And I talked about it at the beginning when I talked about my experience getting into the industry and not confusing a passion for playing games with a passion for making games. And if you have a passion for making games and you want to get into the industry, then whether you're currently in the industry or not, if you're not in the industry, then you should be making games. And there's not really any excuse for you not to currently be making games because the tools are out there, the tools exist. In fact, the opportunities for you to demonstrate your capabilities in making games in the internet environment are tremendous. You can manage virtual teams, you can pull together a virtual team, and you can create games. And I'm not going to say this because I'm trying to promote it, but the StarCraft 2 license comes with a StarCraft 2 map editor, and it's an incredibly powerful tool. It is the tool that we used to make StarCraft 2. So if you want to make games and you want to break into the games industry, go find a game that comes with the tools to make interactive experiences and do it and demonstrate your passion for it, because whatever you create through that will show potential employers, partners, whoever, that you do have that passion for making games.
There's a whip crack right there. That was a good suggestion. It kind of failed though. There you go.
Hi Frank, my name's Dwight. As organizations grow, their culture tends to become institutionalized and bureaucratic. How has Blizzard been able to keep its culture vital and true to its original values?
Well, the first thing we did is after we memorialized the mission statement and values, we said we need a big fucking statue that represents who we are so that this doesn't feel too corporate. and I think it worked. The other thing that I would say is that, you know, we definitely crafted these values to represent who we are, and because that word corporate sort of represents a four-letter word, especially people that are creative feel like corporate, that's a four-letter word. And corporate doesn't have to be a four-letter word, right? What we've done is we want to represent who we are for the future. And so, you know, I think it's in the way that we represent these values to our employees is how we avoid sort of that bureaucratic feel to it all.
Thank you.
Good question.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I have a relatively simple question. Do you have a favorite edition in Dungeons and Dragons?
I think when I was playing, there was only one edition.
Thank you.
So I guess that whatever that was, first edition probably, right? Like I'm that old.
That's good.
Hey Frank, I'm Ryan. I just want to say that I became a big Blizzard fan because of Diablo, and I know that Diablo was created by Blizzard North, and I guess in relation to a culture question for this forum here is what kind of conflicts in the culture of Blizzard North might have resulted in them not developing Diablo 3?
I don't know if it was necessarily a culture conflict as much as an opportunity to seek that creative outlet that creative people need. Right? Like they'd already done 2 versions of Diablo and a Diablo expansion, and they wanted something new, and I respect that. I respect that a lot. And I think that was probably the biggest thing is when you look at Blizzard North and the fact that that's not where Diablo 3 ended up is that they wanted a creative outlet. And I mean we had a good number of Blizzard North folks come down and contribute to Diablo 3 here, and Diablo 3 would not be what it is if it wasn't for the contributions of the Blizzard North folks that came down here and the Blizzard North folks that laid the foundation up in the Bay Area.
Thank you.
Were there any more questions? We still have a little time. Okay, Dan.
Yeah, of course the employees can ask questions. Did someone tell them they couldn't?
No, I'm not going to walk up.
No, you know what? Send it to email Mike.
Damn it. What activities or interests outside of work have you feel have most enriched your experience at work and your ability to do your job over the years?
So I think the thing that I would point to for me personally, and I'm not preaching this, but for me personally, it's exercise. I do a lot of running now. I played hockey before that. I talked about making games being hard work. Hard work means stress, it means anxiety. And for me to get the most out of my experience at work, I need to deal with that stress. I need to deal with that anxiety. My method for doing that is exercise. So, you know, I think anyone that wants to get something out of what they're doing in their day job needs to find ways to make sure that they have an outlet for the stress and anxiety that comes from that day job so that they can enjoy it that much more.
Hello, my name is Millie, and you touched a lot on the remarkable influence of all of the company's IPs, and something that occurred to me, I was just really curious about how do you deal with the enormous responsibility of influence that your company how do you deal with the enormous responsibility of influence that your games and that your content has on such a huge amount of people?
Yeah, that goes back to the lead responsibly value, right? And so the one thing I would say about that is that anything that we choose to do in life, we should partake in moderation. And when it comes to people making that choice when they're not adults yet, that's why we have parental controls. And it's important for everyone to recognize that there's more to life than playing games, and playing games can be an important part of it. but we have to do it in moderation, and we preach that. And there's even game mechanics in World of Warcraft that encourage it. There's the rest system that actually encourages you to take time away from the experience. So I think those are the ways that we sort of think about that.
Just something that crossed my mind. What's your favorite race in World of Warcraft?
I play a troll rogue, so I would have to go with trolls.
And over the course of the amount of classes that you develop, which one is your favorite?
Troll rogue? Rogue?
All right, well, let's thank Frank and Blizzard again, please.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me stand up here and tell you all my thoughts. Means a lot to me. Thank you.
Check. So we're already queuing the music. Fine. No, we are going to try and get everybody out of here just because they need to clean up the facilities and everything of that nature. Hopefully before 9 o'clock, but until that time, there's still quite a bit of food left, and we just want to kind of allow you to be able to network and just start building relationship and just start telling your stories to each other. So again, thank you all for coming, and look forward to February for our next event. Thank you.